President Joe Biden will visit Israel on Wednesday in a show of support after more than 1,400 people were killed by Hamas gunmen last weekend. Mr. Biden will be briefed on plans for the war against Hamas militants. The announcement about Mr. Biden's visit was made by the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken after late-night talks in Tel Aviv. Mr. Blinken also said the US and Israel had agreed on a plan to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. While in Gaza itself, UN agencies have warned of a deepening humanitarian crisis. More than 2,800 people have now been killed by Israeli airstrikes. Meanwhile, Hamas, which is designated as a terror organisation by governments, including the UK and US, says it fired a barrage of rockets at Jerusalem and Tel Aviv overnight, with sirens sending lawmakers there into bomb shelters. At the United Nations, a draft resolution on Israel and Gaza failed to pass the Security Council. Western nations voted against it because it failed to condemn Hamas. Well, let's take you to the scene across Gaza right now. And as we said, the humanitarian situation there worsening. There are bids to improve access to allow some aid into the territory to help those. As we heard, food is running out, medicines in short supply, even electricity is unavailable in many of the health facilities in Gaza. International pressure to allow more aid to access the territory and get to the people who need it. Well, with the very latest, here's our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Knell.
Israel says it's hitting Hamas targets as barrages of rockets are still fired from Gaza. But a world leader is heading this way.
On Wednesday, President Biden will visit Israel. He's coming here at a critical moment for Israel, for the region, and for the world.
With its military might already on show nearby, the US is worried that events here could spiral into a regional crisis. Overnight, Israel was also fighting against powerful Hezbollah militants in Lebanon. It welcomes the US support.
The visit of the President of the United States has strategic importance for the entire Middle East, and influence in that the most senior figure in the United States is coming to Israel at a time of war, getting a review of the war situation that talks of the different scenarios in the Middle East and the steps that will need to be taken.
There's also the hostage crisis to discuss, with Hamas now saying 250 people are being held in Gaza. It's believed they include Americans and maybe some of the 10 British nationals still missing. The BBC doesn't generally publish hostage videos, but the family agreed pictures from the video could be shown. And the clock is ticking to come up with plans to alleviate the immense suffering of ordinary Palestinians. Israel put Gaza under siege and told 1 million people to evacuate from the north to the south. This UN school is now a shelter. There are severe shortages of water and food. The UN says the situation's desperate.
We've seen about 1 million people move from the north to the south due to the possible threat of Israeli intervention in the north, arising out of the taking of those hostages. We need to get aid to those people for 2 reasons. Number one, to make their movement safe to where they want to go voluntarily, and 2, to sustain them while they're there.
The hope is that aid could be brought in through Egypt's Rafah crossing on Gaza's southern border. Already, lorry loads are ready to enter. And on the other side, there are crowds of Palestinians with foreign passports, including British families, waiting to exit. Meanwhile, Israel continues its plans for a wider operation, which it says will eliminate Hamas. Its force is expected to launch a ground offensive in Gaza soon. The stakes for Joe Biden's trip couldn't be higher. Yolande Knell, BBC News, Jerusalem.